Although money can't buy happiness, it most definitely makes the world go round, with many people having to settle for dead-end jobs in an attempt to survive out on their own. And if the global health situation has taught us anything, it's that when the chips are down, people will do absolutely anything to score quick cash so they can afford the things they love. But what are some of the craziest things that people have admitted to doing for money? And would we ever do these things ourselves? Well, whether you're a fan of high-stake betting or just want to know more about the crazy places people will go when stretched for cash, stay right where you are, as we're about to explore the most insane things that people have ever done for money. So strap yourselves in and get ready for a study of humanity, as things are about to get interesting. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe with notifications turned on, so you don't miss any of the new videos we post. Number 1. A personal footrest. Children can be manipulated quite easily, which is why we all agree that they should be protected from unruly advertisements and the like. What we do often forget, though, is that since children often don't have their own means of earning an income, they'll do next to anything to make a quick buck. This is especially true in today's world, where everything you enjoy costs money. Whether it's a new Fortnite skin or virtual coins to be used in the newest mobile games, these cost money, which kids don't have at their disposal. And this is where older brothers and sisters come in, who are often able to get their younger siblings to do a number of crazy things for the promise of a solid paycheck. One user admits, for example, that his sister used to pay him 10 cents an hour to be her own personal footrest while she watched television. And while this sounds like the worst deal in the world, considering how little 10 cents an hour is, to a child, it just sounds like free money. Have you ever been paid to watch television with your sister? Well, as it turns out, this user has, even though it was for next to nothing. Number 2. Drinking something awful. Another group of individuals that find themselves being easily manipulated are those who have become highly intoxicated by consuming vast amounts of liquor. Go to any bar or club and you'll see precisely what we mean, whether it comes to the choosing of a new mate or the belief that they are the best thing since sliced bread. This drunk person will have all the confidence in the world, and with all that confidence comes the belief that anything is possible, which can result in some terrible things. Drunk people can be coaxed into doing a selection of tasks with the promise of money, since more money can essentially pay for another round of drinks. And it's this little scenario that brings us to our next user, who promised to do something dastardly in return for a financial gain. According to this user, he got so drunk at a pub in his hometown of Dublin that he ended up throwing up in a beer mug that he had just drained of ale. Without skipping a beat, his friend promised to award him $200 if he went on to consume every last drop of his vomit, which he gladly did and collected the payday so he could afford some more beer. Not only is that story a highly problematic one, it's also incredibly disgusting. It shows the lengths that an intoxicated person will go to in an attempt to collect more alcohol. Shame on you, Mr. Dublin. But well done on capitalizing on your friends. Number 3. In the name of science. A number of wicked things have been done to animals in the name of science, which has always called the morality of the field into question. And although it may be true that things have changed in today's age, science still needs test subjects in order to progress. So what many universities and private facilities in the United States have decided to do is offer payouts to people in an attempt to bring them in for the testing of new products and medicine. This is never done without the research to back it up, though, as something as horrifying as that would most definitely be against the law. But according to another user, this is precisely what happened to him during his college days. Since he was strapped for cash and didn't have enough to cover the cost of his textbooks, this user allowed a medical researcher to inject him with salt water on 2 different occasions so that the researcher could record just how much pain he was in as a result. Why the researcher would want to do this besides discovering new ways to torture people, we have no idea. But our user walked away with a fee that allowed him to buy his textbooks and pass his course. So while we may not agree with the method, at least his torture resulted in something good at the end of the day. Number 4. Back to school. We've already spoken about just how easy it is to manipulate kids when it comes to money, but we never mentioned how easily they can be coaxed into a variety of dares by their friends. Early childhood is a strange time, and it almost feels like a rite of passage to do some disgusting things for the honor of being able to make a moment memorable. Funnily enough, these dares are usually completed without even the slightest promise of financial gain. But in this case, the child in question walked away with a stiff $20 bill. When reminiscing about his times riding the school bus when he was younger, our next user remembered a moment that to this day had remained steadfast in his memory. When dared by his friend to lick the floor of the school bus, he said that he would only do it if they gave him a prize. It was at this moment that another friend held up the $20 note we spoke about before, which successfully coaxed the user into dragging his tongue along the dirty floor that thousands of kids walked over every single day. And knowing how dirty the floor of our own school bus used to get, we know just how terrible the taste must have been. But you can buy quite a lot of candy with $20, which is precisely what our user ended up doing. Number 5. Geeks for the win. Another difficult time in life of a young adult is the first year of university, which is a massive leap from the high school we all thought was so difficult. Not only is the work far more complex than any of us expected, the content is also almost triple the entirety of the high school curriculum, and that's just one subject. University lecturers don't tend to hold their students' hands when it comes to the passing of a course, which is why studying for an upcoming exam can quickly result in someone feeling overwhelmed and doing whatever they can to make things easier for themselves. You've definitely heard the old wives' tale of sleeping on your textbooks to help you absorb the knowledge within them, right? Well, it looks like our next user capitalized on that knowledge by being paid to study in the room of another student. According to this university student, he was paid approximately $100 to simply study in another student's room. Apparently, the student who was paying him knew that as one of the smartest kids in class, he would be studying anyway, and hoped that merely having him in his room would transfer some of that knowledge over to him. Quite a strange situation if you ask us, but we're sure he learned his lesson the hard way by both failing and losing out on the $100 he paid to the geeky guy down the hall. There are unfortunately no shortcuts when it comes to getting an education, but congratulations to our user for making the best of the situation and getting paid to study. Number 6. Theft is never the answer. A number of people who find themselves in need of quick cash end up turning to a life of crime. Making the decision to go down this road leads to a slippery slope, with crimes like theft often upgrading themselves to hijacking and so on and so forth. This is never the answer, regardless of whether your name is Robin Hood or not. But while our next example is considered to be a crime because of its roundabout nature, we couldn't not include it on the list. According to one user, her friend used to go to the college parking lot every day to hunt for shopping receipts from the nearby Walmart. She would then make a note of the items and go shopping, but instead of paying for these items, she would end up shoplifting them. In the strangest turn of events ever, she would then return the items she had stolen to the same Walmart, along with the accompanying receipt, and since Walmart has a pretty relaxed return policy, she would end up walking away with the monetary amount of the items she had shoplifted. Is it just us, or does that sound like something straight out of a movie? Absolutely insane. Number 7. The intrepid entrepreneur. It looks like the common denominator when it comes to crazy things done for cash is the age of the person doing them, as we once more find ourselves in the realm of the schoolyard. The vast majority of us experienced an entrepreneur day every now and again at school, where we were taught the value of $1 and how to earn more by selling items that others wanted. And while this often took the form of baked goods, our next user on the list took things a step further by lying to his clientele. Hailing from Alaska, he retells the story of growing up in the middle of nowhere and collecting moose droppings from the moose that were constantly walking through his father's land. Upon noticing that these small pieces of scat didn't smell and looked very similar to milk duds, he went ahead and started to advertise that his father had access to cheap candy. And in no time, he had a pretty decent business, selling moose poop to children under the guise of it being cheap candy. Now that's gross. Number 8. Feeling the heat. Last but not least, our next user wanted to show just how hard of a man he was by eating a Carolina Reaper chili in return for just $5. And although he ended up on the toilet sweating, at least he had $5 for his trouble. Have you ever done something insane for money? Feel free to let us know in the comments section down below.